Have you ever delivered a beautiful UI only to see the final product look nothing like you envisioned? And it's not just an engineer problem, it is a collaboration problem. Over the 10 years, I tried to do my best to improve this collaboration with engineers. I asked them hundreds of questions to make this recipe. I have figured out the exact 6 things you need to do as a designer to make sure your design are built exactly as you envisioned. Here is a common mistake. Your design is a cool UI, but it doesn't explain everything, and your engineer might just sit and look at your button and just have these thoughts like,
oh, this button will teleport me to other screen or what?
So let's fix that. Here's top 5 things that you should annotate on your design always. Click or tap actions. Always explain what's going to happen when a user click or tap a button. Does it navigate to another screen, or does it expand or show a modal? Hover and interaction states. Don't just design static screens, they all have transition, they always should have animation and hover effects, so explain it to your engineer. Error and validation messages. What's going to happen if user entered incorrect data or haven't filled the form? Provide error messages and error states for your engineer so they don't have to guess. Responsive behavior. Tell your engineer and show the example of your interface for different screen sizes. You're designing for mobile devices. And let's be honest, are you designing for just one phone, or are you considering different screen sizes as well? What happens when someone with a bigger or smaller phone opens it? If text gets cut off, buttons shrink, or the layout breaks, that's on you, and your engineer shouldn't have to chase you to fix it. Loading and empty states. How does the UI look like when there is no data yet, or if user just loading the page? Don't leave your interface blank. You spend weeks on perfecting your design only to hear,
yeah, we actually cannot build that.
Ouch! If you're not syncing with your engineers regularly, you're set up yourself for redesigns, rewrites, delays, and frustration. Get engineers' input at the wireframe phase. It helps you to understand if the layout is feasible in the first place. That cool animation may take weeks to build. Always try to check feasibility and implementation time within the time frame you have. Ask about API and data constraints. Your design may look amazing but can be technically inefficient. Only engineers can tell you what data is available early on. Hand off your designs in step. Don't just throw Figma link into your engineer without any explanation. You should review and share your work gradually, step by step, and explain every mockup on your Figma file to an engineer. Having a 10-minute call can save you days or hours of work. Same for your engineer, so you should make it a habit. If your Figma file looks like a mess, then you make your life 10 times harder, and the same for your engineer. And here is a few things that you can do to make your Figma file as structured as possible. Keep your latest design files properly labeled. Avoid using these names. Try to create a system for your names for your files and stick to it. Centralize packs in one place. Pick only one, Figma, Notion, or any platform for design system, and use it. And also make it easy to understand for everyone. Use Figma's built-in annotation and documentation features or plugins so you can place annotation right next to your mockup so devs don't have to look through all this documentation and links everywhere. Keep a version history and communicate changes. If you update your design, add it to your documentation and notify your engineer about those changes. Using design system is super helpful for designers and engineers to check all these updates and keep UI consistent. Using auto layouts, it's not just for designers, it's for engineers as well, because they can see how to translate your design into code. Organize your components and variants. Group your buttons, icons, and other components into a set of variants so engineers will see it and don't have to create a new one manually. Separate work in progress and final designs. Create a clear section or a system for engineers so they will understand what mockups they can pick up and start work on them. And use tokens for spacing, corner radius, and colors so engineers will not guess what components need to create and what component they can reuse. A well-organized file can help you to save time, avoid stress and frustration, and also makes the engineer love working with you. You design a perfect UI, and then engineer asks,
"Oh, where is this data coming from?"
And whoops, you didn't request all this API documentation and data structure documentation, and you designed something that's impossible to build or haven't even built before. One of the biggest mistakes that designers make, they assume that all data is already available, and here is how to avoid this trap. Identify key data needs from day one. List down all data for every screen that you have so engineer can check whether this data is available or something should be built beforehand. Ask engineers about API limitations and constraints. Some data might be slow, large, or unavailable, so you need to ask your engineer first before you start designing something useless. Document data requirements. Place all API reference and comments for your engineer in one place so they don't have to guess where to find the relevant info. Consider loading states. What if it will take time for your data to load? Then you need to think about loaders, placeholders, or skeleton states, so you need to avoid leaving an empty screen. Sync with your engineer. Before finalizing UI, you need to check if data structure matches everything that you designed. When designers and engineers discuss data early, then projects run smoother and launches faster. So start diving into documentation as early as possible. Your design looks perfect until real data loads and everything breaks. Using placeholders like Jane Doe or lorem ipsum won't cut it, and real data is messy and your design needs to handle it. Use a realistic username and long text. Having only short names or short text on your design, it's not ready for real life. You need to test your design with both short and long text to make it reality-proof. Test different scenarios. What if your user decided not to use their full name or username or decided not to upload an avatar? You need to think about a fallback picture for your avatars or maybe use initials instead. Design edge cases for tables and lists. Real data isn't consistent most of the time. You need to think about empty states, empty cells, fields. What if you have inconsistent phone number or like you don't have a number or something like that? You need to think about all these edge cases. Use real numbers, dates, and prices. Usually your real prices there doesn't look really clean to users, so you need to think about decimals, the proper format for each currency, and also about formats for your dates. Different languages. Some words may double in sizes for different languages, and you need to think about your UI to make sure that buttons should expand in some languages or maybe shrink based on the length of the symbol inside. A great UI isn't just beautiful pictures, it should work for the real data in real life. And if you will check all these edge cases and will fix it for your designs, your engineers will thank you. Ever opened a website or application and see nothing, just blank page? Many designers focused only perfect situation when they have everything and everything works perfectly well. But what about designing for a situation when there is really slow internet connection, no data, server errors, or any other situations? What if a user opens a page and there is no data yet? What if it will take a while for data to fetch? In this case, you need to show that something's going on the background. So some skeleton states, animations, or loaders can help you to provide clarity for your users so they will not be disappointed or frustrated by seeing an empty page. No Wi-Fi? It's not a problem. You just need to explain an issue for your user and provide retry button. Losing users' data during unexpected errors is unacceptable because it brings frustration to users and they will be disappointed by product. You need to do your best to think about ways how to save users' data and avoid situation when a user needs to fill in everything again and again. If you design only for perfect cases, your UI will fail in the real world. As a final thought, I might say that it is impossible to cover everything because there is some specifics for different products, different team, even different people. And if you like this video, please press thumbs up and share and subscribe, or leave a comment if you like it and you would like to learn more. Thank you so much for watching and keep designing.